Hey there, hey, this is Michelle with Brilliant Quest, and today we're going to be talking about the mentality of internal motivation. Yes, and the reason why I want you to grasp this and get this is because this is where the future is going. Those who are able to ignite and keep their internal fires burning are going to be able to do something that's really powerful, and that is called future casting. And what future casting is it's a way to create, mentally architect what happens for you from here, there, and there, and there. And it is something that the quote unquote special you have done. I love biographies. I love reading biographies. Now, yes, don't come at me in comments saying, well, you know, they tainted, you know, that people write with the best parts, but honey, it helps me. And I remember reading some of the quote unquote titans of the industrial age, like the Morgans, Pierpont and JP. Rockefeller, the Titan, if you will, Charles Schwab, and some of the others. You know, I liked, especially looking at the bankers. You know, based on my MBA side of life, and I love looking at patterns. And one of the patterns that I saw in a lot of these different biographies written by different people, including the one that I read, he wasn't, I mean, Ben Franklin, and that was a long book, but the pattern was that they were really good at future casting. And when you future cast, it's what we do when we are visualizing. Some of the LOA people, LOA, law of attraction, some of the LOA people really talk about building that skill. And it's not woo woo. It is something that has always happened. You know why I know this? I'm going to take something that's, you don't think it has anything to do with being able to have a strong internal motivation that helps you to have a stellar ability to future cast. But the first type of coding, and most people are proficient in the first type of coding that we ever had, and that was writing. They have found in cuneiform tablets and all of these different ancient relics that show the coding, which was writing. And what they figured out was the ones that survived. Now, you know, I'm just saying that these are the ones that survived, but they found that there were quote unquote scribes, and scribes would do what is called accounting. So because it was hard to send a message through a messenger who would have to remember and recite, you know, accounting stuff like we had this many cows, goats, boars, whatever, they decided to do writing. Now, stay with me. There is a purpose to this, that you can understand the power of having this future sight. What they would do is they would send messages between the kingdoms, and the scribes would write down what the kings, you know, wanted them to write down. And then they made note that the scribes would have little side notes to each other, like, we're thinking about visiting next year. Let us know. That would be a great time. It would be good to meet up and see you guys, our family and your family. And then when the messenger was to bring it back, because most people were illiterate, they would have scribes a lot of times who would read the messages to the kings, because you know the kings were kind of like the CEOs of today. They don't code, but they have a whole bunch of coders, and so the coders, you know, do what the king wants, you know. So they would read all of this stuff, but they would notice that they had the little messages on the side. Well, guess what? That was future casting. They put it into quote unquote code, and they were like, "Hey, next spring, let's get together. Yeah, let's do that." Or you know, simple little things like next spring, it looks like it's going to rain. And then there were some accounts where they would be able to actually future cast based on the accounting of stuff. And you might be like, okay, Michelle, I listened to this story, but how does that help me? What about me? Okay. The reason why I told you that is because we are created in a way that we do it naturally. When you decide that you're going to go to the grocery store and you make a grocery list, what's some of the stuff that you put on there? Oh, I'm out of. Well, why are you out of it? Because subconsciously you're telling yourself, in the future, I'm going to need this ingredient to do something, blah, 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 blah. And then your actions make it so that you have the ingredient for the future. Now, if it's so easy to create a grocery list based on your ability to future cast, you can do that with so many more things. But some way or somewhere along the line, we got to the point that it became woo-woo to actually future cast and see and envision what we wanted for our futures. Well, when I looked at, not especially, but okay, I'll take two of the bankers. And I mean, not the bankers. Well, yeah, I'll start with the bankers. Y'all, I promise you, I'm getting to the point. Pierpont and JP Morgan. So the dad was able to future cast the power of his family legacy by making sure that his son would have the all the things and the skills he needed to continue the business, especially when they moved from Europe over to the United States. And different little things that they did show that they had been building on this for a long time. They saw different opportunities. Like, for instance, when the Morgans stepped up to the plate, if you will, the son lived over here, the father still was in Europe, and the son futurecast, because at the time, United States had a bad reputation. We ain't like to pay our bills. And so we would borrow money and just be like, and not pay it back, not because we were struggling, like, I'm not thinking about you. I'm over here. What you gonna do? And so the son, JP would, like, he would say, you know, well, Dad, I think that we can really make our names known here if we get to the point where we develop a culture that we're good for it and we will start paying. And so the Morgans were, now they had their faults too, but the Morgans started focusing on rehabilitating our credit worthiness and becoming a juggernaut to the point where they started to earn the respect of even the Rothschilds and others around the world for, you know, their banking prowess. And it just, one thing after another, it just kept showing you how they would see visions for things, even if they were to have wars and how they were going to make money out of wars. It was a son, JP, that was really, that was his thing. But understanding that you don't get anything if you don't mentally create it was a big thing. If you look at Rockefeller, he did the same. When he was this scrawny guy that nobody took for granted, working in accounting and all of the different little things that he did, and he became partners with this guy who was kind of like a peacock of a man, Rockefeller knew that he might not be the presence, you know, to get everybody to look at him. He might not be the great orator, but what he could do is he understood patterns, he understood opportunity, and he worked them. When I think about Rockefeller, I think about the 48 Laws of Power, especially one of my favorites, Law number 16. And Law number 16 is basically monk mode. It's like, there come times when you need to get quiet and you need to get invisible and you need to work in silence, basically. And so he actually did that and let the other two guys that were his partners do all the foolishness they wanted to do. When the company started suffering, he was able to buy them out. And then he turned that thing around, and here they come back like, well, we want back in. He's like, nope, I got it. I mean, it's a really interesting read, but it talks about how he futurecasts because he knew where he wanted to go and to be. Now, in a previous video, I talked about the power of a growth mindset, and that a growth mindset, unlike a fixed one, it is not fixated on a certain point in time or a certain award or achievement. A growth mindset always has you achieving and asking, and what now? And what now? Because it's about the journey instead of the destination. And that's one thing that Rockefeller had that his counterparts didn't. They were in fixed mindsets. That's why they were peacocky, because they thought they had made it. And he's like, no, no. And he was able to become the juggernaut that he was during his time. And of course, they're all human. They all have failings as well. But I'm just giving you some of the highlights so that you can understand the importance of what it means to develop an internal motivation and why you need it, especially in times like now. All right. So when you are considering improving on anything, motivation has different disciplines, if you will. There's an external motivation, and that external motivation a lot of times belongs to what we would call a fixed mindset. And it's because those things are tangible, and once you achieve them, you know you've done them. And too many times motivation has devolved down to the external components. So what are some of the external components of motivation? Of course, they are power, money, status, marital status, relationship status, all of these things that are outward facing, that once you achieve them, you can say, oh, I got it, you know. But they have learned that just like outside power source. So say, for instance, you want to heat your home, and you get firewood and you burn the firewood. Well, you get some of the energy of the firewood while it's burning. But once it's gone, if you don't keep replenishing it, it's going to get cold in the house again. So that's an example of how external motivation works. It sparks of it. You know, it's like from this achievement to that achievement to that achievement. And you have to be careful, because if you only concentrate on or are only aware of the external motivation, you start to fall into greed, where you don't understand what is enough. And you start to get out of harmony and alignment with what will keep you in the sweet spot of living your best life. You become driven for the sake of chasing that external high because you feel hollow or you feel like something is missing inside. Well, here comes internal motivation. Now, there's this book that is from the famous sociologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and it's called Flow. And Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote this after observing what kept people in this trance-like high productivity status for hours on end, doing complicated stuff. And what he discovered was there are intrinsic motivations that blow extrinsic out of the water. They are not attached to money, power, status, reputation, relationship status, or any of that kind of stuff. They are internally derived and they can be perpetual. All right. So here are, they broke them down into kind of like 5, and I'm going to give them to you. And they are curiosity, purpose, passion / they call it autotelecity. No, let me slow it down. Autotelecity. Yes, but it's passion. That's what it means. So curiosity, purpose, passion, mastery, and autonomy. And so they said, if you really want to be able to focus, to concentrate, to evolve, to become masterful, to do hard things, these are the 5 things that you'll do. So I'll say them again because I kind of flubbed them, and I'll make sure they're listed here. So curiosity, purpose, passion, mastery, autonomy, and I got them all. Sorry. Curiosity, purpose, passion, mastery, autonomy. And they are internal, and it is up to you to activate them. It is up to you to feed them. It is up to you to use them. The more you use them, the more they will reward you. And as a byproduct, a lot of the things that you try to get and chase, the external things, will naturally come to you because of the internal motivators. Because if you have high curiosity and you have purpose, so the way it is explained, in the simplest terms, curiosity is the what and the why, and then purpose is the how, and the or what are we doing to do this. And so a lot of people naturally use curiosity and purpose, and then they become masterful. But then it really gets up there once you can find a way to own it, meaning that you become autonomous. You own this. And then passion kicks in. Isn't that something? And I did a video where I talked about the difference between passion and purpose, and how passion is usually for the youthful and purpose is for as you're getting older, because purpose requires more of you. And it was amazing to me to go back and review what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi said about flow, in that you have curiosity, purpose, mastery, autonomy, passion. So passion comes back around. It's like you do something long enough, you get good at it, you find your purpose for doing it, and you can own it, you become a master or whatever, and then you develop the passion. So I thought that was really a nice little cycle of, coming back. And so one of the things that I need you to understand, if you're going to stay with what is happening in today's world is all about the speed of thought. And so with the speed of thought, you're going to find that unless you are operating in using the skills and the muscles of critical thinking, unless you are able to understand things that are past the tangible, meaning that you got to be able to be theoretical, how to see things in different planes in your mind, you're going to be relegated to the masses, who will not be the movers and the shakers and the power makers. And so this is like a tip off to help you to understand that this world is moving at the speed of thought, but it's not hard if you understand that there is a recipe to do this. And it's as old as time. Over and over again, you will see throughout history, even by looking at different biographies, that people were able to futurecast. They were able to visualize something that they wanted, and they were able to use their internal motivators to get them what they needed. Because like with Rockefeller, his partners were all about extrinsic motivation. They were chasing the bag. They were chasing the glory. They were chasing all of the things. And when they got them, their passion waned and they wanted to rest on their laurels. Whereas he was like, okay, I'm going to stun on these fools and I'm going to keep my curiosity high. He was known for being able to outwit you like a fox. Now, some of these things weren't good. What he did with unions, when the railroads and all the different ways he went around them. I mean, he was schooling them. Let's just be honest. He was just schooling them. But you can only do that kind of stuff when you have high curiosity, when you understand your purpose in the moments, and you continue to have a growth mindset where you're never satisfied, where you are continuously growing. It's about the journey, not the destination. So you stay hungry. And it's like, can you really compete with someone who has this strong of an internal motivation, who is very powerful at future casting, and who has win after win of creating something that he thought of in his mind, and now he can look at it in the tangible? There is nothing, there is nothing more powerful than when you conjure something up in your mind, and then you are driven, hopefully in a healthy way, to bring it into fruition, into this world, where it lives in this world because you thought about it and then you work the steps. Your confidence is unmatched. It can't be beat. And so these were some of the things that I started, noticing that's what happens today. I was watching this interview of this young man who's a professional gambler, and his mind is a beautiful mind. And I mean, I was like, okay, because I don't want this to go too much longer, I'll just tell you some quick insights that stood out to me when he was being interviewed. And it was that both his parents were professional poker players. And he won a charity event out of a whole bunch of people, including against his mother in the last round when he was 12 years old. And he meditated on, he studied, he practiced, and he was just waiting for himself to turn to 21 so he could legally become a poker player. Now, doesn't that sound like a fixed mindset where you're fixating on something? Well, guess what? He future casted. He was like, well, I'm going to be the greatest poker player in the world. He says, but is that enough? Because then he realized, if I become the best poker player in the world, I won't stay that way, because everybody will know who I am, and then they won't want to play with me. You see that? So what he then said was, I will then move where I have a company and other people do it for me. That's that leveraging. That's how Rockefeller was able to do what he did. I'll get other people and I will pay them better than the other little companies that would pay them to do the same. And then I will learn how to do betting in different venues, whether it be sports or horses or whatever. And I'm watching him talk about all this. And this guy is not even 30 yet. And he's talking about all this, and he's talking about the wins, and he's talking about how his mind has been evolving through the different iterations of his life thus far. And it reads just like this. Whether he can articulate it or not, his internal motivation is way stronger. He tells of a story where he was in a poker tournament and he had won $700,000. He had the casino keep $500,000 of it, and he took $200,000 of it in a backpack because he was going to go and play at another event. And he had to go to the airport. And something happened where he ended up having to stay the night before his flight left. Instead of go get a hotel room, he slept on top of his $200,000 in his backpack, because he was like, this is not my money to celebrate. This is seed for the next thing I want to do. And I was like, oh, this baby's growth mindset is just off the charts. So he then takes the 200,000 and turns it into, I think he said 1.7 mil that he won, but he did not, rest his laurels on that. He just kept on and kept on. And then he evolved to where he was like, I don't want to play in poker tournaments. I don't need that fame. And he continuously does this. And he started playing in private events with billionaires, so that the skills that he had to learn, he had to start learning, more about people than just what you learn at the poker table. He had to start learning the mindsets of people who are not in a scarcity mindset when it comes to money. It's a different kind of mindset. You're dealing with ego and power dynamics and all of these things. And so it was a very interesting interview to watch. I learned a lot, and I was just like, and that is why he is enjoying his life now. And he is not trying to live in fear. He talked about recently, he lost $1 million betting on the Super Bowl. And he was just like, yeah, it's okay. I can get it back today. What do you do when you see someone who is so internally motivated that they know that they can generate $1 million in a day without having to call in favors of a network? Just let that marinate and sizzle for a minute. That's what I'm talking about when I am talking about the need for us to have a brilliant quest where we're able to build our minds, not chasing money, but build our minds to create at will and to manifest it at will. And I'm not just talking about LOA. I am talking about LOA including more of the things that we know that are replicatable, like to a scientific point. And it's not just the visualizing. It is the future casting. Now, let me say one other quick thing about that, and then I'm just going to give you a few more points because I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, okay, you need to make sure you give them this. Okay. All right. So with the reason why you want to have a stellar internal motivation system is because, like I said before, this internal motivation system is not only continuous and perpetual, it's efficient. You see, if you're constantly relying on external things to keep you motivated, you will get into these danger zones of addiction, of greed, of running your body into the ground, of never understanding satiation, self-control. And it's not a good diet to have to keep you going. You want to make sure that not only are you able to use the external, but you rely more heavily on the internal. And one of the things that I like from Jim Rohn, he is a old time. He's not here anymore with us on this plane, but he is one of those business motivators. And he was really big about the ask and receive. And he talks about it even from the Bible. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. And what I like about the internal motivation, even if you can't, even if you can't phantom trying to get $1 million in one day to be motivated, having that internal motivation is going to help you to naturally develop your ask and receive, your seek and your find. Because remember, it's got curiosity, purpose, mastery, it's got autonomy and passion. And if you are highly curious with a high quotient, you're going to naturally start asking questions. And then you're going to have different types of questions. I've done training about the two main ways of curiosity. There is curiosity for the sake of knowing. It's the people that are going to reverse engineer. They're going to tear up stuff to look at it and see what's in it. They are there simply to figure out why this exists. Then there is the curiosity for the sake of producing. This is the curiosity that gets you to the what and the how. This curiosity is collecting information to produce something. With the internal motivation system, when you pair curiosity, especially when you pair curiosity, purpose, and mastery, the first three, they cover those two different paths of curiosity where you become masterful in both of them. And going back to this young man, not even the bankers that I talked about, but going back to this young man and how he was talking about his evolution from just wanting to be the best poker player in the world to now having this huge growing company where he is using the power of a lot of great poker players, but he's also being able to fly under the radar, continuously grow to experience different ways of betting, different ways of feeding that hunger of curiosity, satisfying his purpose, and still becoming masterful without being penalized for being at the top of one of the disciplines. It is an exercise in seeing that this is what is going to be happening. These are the people that you're matriculating with. In some cases, this is your competition. And so I'm here to let you know what this brilliant quest needs to entail. You've got to get to the point where not only do you stay motivated, but you understand how to turn on and start using your highly efficient and effective internal motivators. And you start to develop your ability to futurecast and then bring it into the reality. All right. So guess what? Yeah, the time is up. I thank you for yours. Don't forget to watch this next video so that you can continue to get sharp and clean and clear on your brilliant quest. And I want you to go out there and do some brilliant things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Leave some comments. Let me know what you're thinking and what's going on with you. And I'm going to see you sooner than later. This is Michelle, your big sis for Brilliant Quest. Bye.